Hello everyone, it's Ben again, and as usual, I'm here to answer one of your questions. And today's question is a really big question and a very important one. And the question is from Bikesh Gurung. I hope I pronounced that right. Sorry if I didn't. And his question is, can you tell me some tips for fluency in speaking? So, to answer your question, I would say that fluency involves a few things. Two main things maybe we'll talk about. The first one is speed and your rate of speaking. And the second one is using kind of connected natural speech, using things called discourse markers, especially, and connectives. So the first thing to talk about is speed. How can you improve your speed when speaking? So there's a few ways I'd recommend. The first way is, if possible, try to speak in English every day. Ideally with a native speaker of English, but if not, with maybe another practicer of English. And number two, if that's not possible, because I know not everyone has the opportunity to speak in English with other people, if you can't do that, I'd recommend just thinking in English every day. Make sure you study a little bit every day, even if you're busy, just 20 minutes. And try to think in English, just when you're doing normal things, like if you're walking to work, walking down the street, look at the building, think about how you could describe it. Look at the car, think about how you could describe it. Just very basic things. Or try to translate into English what you're doing in your head. Like now I'm walking down the road and then I'm going to do something. So I'd really recommend that, because fluency is about speaking at a good rate. But for me, what fluency is really about is the speed you can get your thoughts to kind of come out of your brain and come out of your mouth. So the more you think in English, the faster you'll be able to speak eventually. And just one more thing I'd recommend, not only for fluency, but also for pronunciation, is try a technique called shadow reading. And what this means is read along, speaking English along with a native speaker. So if you can listen to an audio recording or watch a YouTube video, especially if you can see the captions, the subtitles, try to read along with the native speaker at the same speed and with the same rhythm. And that will really help with your overall delivery of English. Okay, so let's move on to the second thing we're going to talk about, which is discourse markers. Now, as I always mention every time in the videos, you should always look at the IELTS public band descriptors, which are available on the IELTS website. And you can see them just over here. So you're asking about fluency in your question, and you can see that the first section of the descriptors talks about fluency and what that means. So, of course, the speed is important, but there's also a big focus on something called discourse markers. And you may not know what that means, but I would just say discourse markers are things in English, words and phrases, which don't really give any meaning in themselves, but they tell the listener what you're doing. Just as one example, if I say, I think, you know that next I'm going to give something that's my personal opinion. So for discourse markers, there's a focus on using a range. So if you say, I think this, I think this, I think this, the style is not very good. But if you want to give an opinion, there are countless different ways to do that. For example, to my mind, in my opinion, as far as I'm concerned, some of the other ones you may have heard of, there are lots and lots of different ways to give your opinion. So make sure you use a good range and a good variety, and especially use ones to connect your ideas. Just to give you another example, to talk about connectives, which is another thing mentioned here, I might want to do something like, for example, make a contrast. So again, just to give an example, I could say, I don't really like fast food, but I do like hamburgers. So the word but is telling you I'm going to make some kind of a contrast. But there are other things I can do as well. I wouldn't use words like however, nevertheless, They're more for writing, but for speaking, I could use other words like though. So, for example, with that word, I don't really like fast food, though I do like hamburgers. That would be another way to do it. Or if I want to make a new sentence, generally speaking, I don't really like fast food because it's unhealthy, it's too greasy and salty. That said, I do quite like a hamburger every now and again. So using that said, which is a good one for speaking, to show I'm going to say something which is a kind of contrast to the sentence I said just before. Okay, everyone, so I'll just leave you with one more very general tip for fluency, which is don't make things too complicated. Try not to use really complicated strings of words. Writing, you have lots of time to think about it. So when we write, we say things like, due to the development of technology. But in speaking, it's quite hard to do this. So it's better just to keep it a bit simple to express your basic idea. For example, as technology develops more and more, it would be a bit easier to say in speaking. And for another thing, you might have learned some really good vocabulary, and you can nearly think what it is. In English, we say it's on the tip of your tongue. It's nearly there. But if you can't think of it right away, it's better just to move on and find a different way to say it. Because if you have really long pauses and hesitations, it's not really going to kind of help you do your best and get the best score, because the time is so limited. You know, it's a 15-minute exam. It's better not to spend a lot of time thinking about these. And as we said, fluency is not completely, but it's largely about your rate of speaking and having a natural rhythm, a natural rate. So that's a final tip that I'll leave you with. Okay, everyone. So I hope that answered your question, Bikesh. I hope I'm saying your name right. For everyone watching, if you do have any more questions, please ask in the comments, and I'll try my best just to give you a bit of advice based on what I think, you know, based on what I would do if I take a Korean exam, because I study Korean, and explain why I would do that. So thanks for watching, everyone. Keep studying hard. Bye-bye.